Hi friends, thanks for stopping by for today's video. I am so excited. I have been reading a lot. As always, I hope you are healthy and safe. I hope that this video can give you a great book recommendation because I freaking loved it, and also give you a little bit of a distraction with the stressors of life. Today's video is on the book Sweet Chaos by Emery Rose. I love her writing. I fell in love with it with the first book of hers that I read, which was her first book. I enjoyed all the books in that series, 3-book series. I have done videos on it. I will put a link in the description box below so you can watch those videos as well. And then her 4th book is Wilder Love. Sweet Chaos, which is the book we're going to talk about today, is the 2nd book in the series with Wilder Love. And I can't remember what she named the series. I don't want to say the wrong name, but when you look it up on Amazon, and of course I'll put the link in the description box below, that you will see Wilder Love is associated as well. I loved Wilder Love. Talking about that story, that book, those characters still makes me rather emotional. Their story, oh my gosh, I just loved it. I knew that I was going to love Sweet Chaos as well because it has to do with Dylan, who we met in Wilder Love because, and follow me for a second, Wilder Love is about Shane and Remy. Dylan and Remy are twins, brother and sister. So we know a bit about Dylan from Wilder Love. He's in it, but Dylan's an enigma, and as much as we got to know him, we didn't get to know him. And I wondered if we were going to get more from him. Here we are with Sweet Chaos. I was a little nervous, quite honestly. I didn't know where Emery was going to start Dylan's story, if we were going to go all the way back to teenage Dylan and start from there and build forward. Because as we read Remy's story in Wilder Love and saw those snippets of Dylan, I was like, oh, I don't know if my heart can handle going back there. You know what I mean? So I was very happy to find started when Dylan is older. He's 26 when the book starts. Sweet Chaos is about Dylan and Scarlett, and we don't really know Scarlett in Wilder Love. We know her sister, Sienna, who is Dylan's on-again, off-again girlfriend. We know, and actually Sienna is Remy's best friend. We know, because there's 2 different ways we know Sienna, that it's not a good relationship. Remy and Dylan just have a really rough life, and they are trying to do the best they can. They've been raised without a father figure. Their mom is a whole lot of trouble and not good and doesn't take care of them. So we don't know much. We know about Sienna, but we don't really know much about Scarlett. So that's where the whole forbidden part of this book comes from, because it's about Scarlett and Dylan. And when the book starts, we know that Dylan and Sienna are no longer together and haven't been for a few years. And so I was anxious to get to know Scarlett and find out what else she was going to give us. What else was she going to bring to the table? I know Emery writes a beautiful love story, so I know this would be a beautiful love story, but I didn't really like Sienna in Wilder Love, and so I wasn't sure if I was going to like Scarlett. The interesting thing about them is that they're polar opposites. And it's funny because we go into the past in the beginning of the book when Dylan jumps in the wrong window. He tries to get into their house, Scarlett and Sienna's house, when Scarlett is 11 years old and he's trying to sneak in the house to visit Sienna. And he comes in her window and she's like, "What's up, Romeo?" And I thought it was so funny, but she's 11 years old, and Dylan and Sienna at that point are 16, 17. And yet going all the way back there, they had a connection as two people that was completely separate than there being an age difference, her being Sienna's sister. Sienna and Scarlett's family is not good. Very affluent, not a good marriage with the parents. You know, it's just not good. And yet Scarlett is this, even at 11 years old, she's very honest, she's very pure, she's smart, she's got a quick wit. And there's something that Dylan appreciates about, because he has nobody in his life really that cares for him besides Remy. And yet there's this young whippersnapper, this young girl who like goes toe to toe with him, and he really likes. There was nothing romantic about that. But what it was somebody they were looking at each other in a way that they connected, and that carried them through. Fast forwarding to the next part of the book where she's 21 and he's 27, I think, 26. Of course, Scarlett had a young girl's crush on him. She couldn't help it. Dylan is, of course, handsome, bad boy, quiet, you know, this kind of rough and from the wrong side of the tracks kind of guy that, what does she say, or what did he say? He describes himself as that he can screw your girlfriend, beat the crap out of you in front of your BMW. He's friends with all the drug dealers. He said something else too, but he's also incredibly smart, and people don't give him credit. And he built his life and his success in life by himself. He went to college. He made sure Remy was taken care of. He just was this quiet strength that was able to get him through life and him to become a success in his own right. He doesn't let anyone into his life, into his heart. It's a very tumultuous relationship with Sienna, toxic. He describes it as toxic. He lets very few people in, didn't really even fully let her in, but yet he's made this incredible success of his life, doing it his own way on his own terms. And there's a lot of people in that affluent town that they live in that don't like him. It's interesting, two things. One, loved how Emery brought in Southern California. The town they live in is called Costa del Rey. I love the vibe she gave us with that. I could envision it all in my head as I'm reading it. I think I probably should have been a Southern California girl, quite honestly. The weather, the mountains, the ocean, the palm trees, I just love all that. And I loved and I felt that very organically in her telling of the story. And then the second thing that I want to say is that I wanted to know, and I was so annoyed as to why Sienna and Scarlett's father, Simon, a lot of S's, wouldn't just leave Dylan alone. He was after him all the time. I adored how Dylan gave her a nickname at a young age. He called her Starlet, which I thought was so sweet. And he continues, he almost uses Starlet more than he uses Scarlet. And it's funny, as I'm sitting here, when I was reading it, it wasn't a big deal, but when I'm trying to say it to you, I want to say Starlet all the time, even though her name's Scarlet. And then she called him her Romeo because that time that he came in the window. I loved this book. I loved with interconnected books like this that we got so much of Shane and Remy. I just love being able to see the characters that I fell in love with in other books in carrying through to the next book in the series. I like to see where they are in life. We got all that. It feels like going home again, and that's one of my favorite things when reading a series. When their story starts, they're both at interesting places in their lives. Scarlett turned 21. She is trying to stand on her own 2 feet. She has decided to literally cut the strings with her parents because her dad is very controlling and she wants no part of that, never has. And she's kind of a disappointment in the family because she doesn't do what her parents expect. And that's something that Dylan loves about her. And that is something that makes her so separate from Sienna, because Sienna, when they were together, would have been devastated to lose her trust fund, would have been devastated to make her dad upset. There's so much favor put on Sienna because she's like the golden child. Whereas Scarlett's like, nope, I don't need you. You're all messed up. I can stand on my own 2 feet. I can take care of myself. You don't appreciate me. And it was something that they had in common. Neither one of them had that special person that believed in them. And it was something that drew Scarlett to Dylan, was that she always believed in him. And he knew that. Sienna never believed in him. There was no comparison. He says it time and time again. He's like, they couldn't be more different. It's like they aren't even related. But yet he knows for her that it's a big deal that they're related. And Sienna and Scarlett are not that tight. But yet Scarlett has this heart where she doesn't want to hurt her sister and she doesn't want to hurt her mom. And there's a softness, but yet she knows she's different and she gets sick of being pushed around by them. But to her, she would never want to hurt her sister. But she can't help that she feels the way she's felt for so long. She said there was never any comparison for another guy in Dylan. She's been in love with him since she was, honestly, she said since she was 15 years old. And he stuck up for her. And something clicked in her teenage brain. And she went from the 11-year-old crushing on her sister's boyfriend to a 15-year-old being like, oh God, I love him. But thinking they could never, ever be together. They suddenly find themselves running into each other all the time. It's like life is trying to put them together. And it was Scarlett's friend, I want to say Nicola. I don't have an accent. Why should I want to say Nicola? Because I don't think it's Nicola. You know, that doesn't sound right. But anyway, her name, so I'm going to say Nicola. She says that it's synchronicity, that they are in sync. And so they're going to start like life is going to start putting them in each other's paths because there's something about where they are in their lives that they're in sync. Dylan starts to try to go after her. He realizes that now is the time, and she's kind of, not that she's standoffish, because she wasn't standoffish with him. She just didn't know how they could even manage to try to have a relationship. She knows and he knows, but it's a little more complicated for her. Like I mentioned, there's a lot in their way. There's a lot working against them. So she asks him a few times in this book, why me? She needs to know that he doesn't love Sienna anymore, that she's not second best. She's always been second best. Dylan refers to her and Sienna as the heir and the spare, that Sienna's the heir and Scarlett was the spare. Scarlett doesn't want to be anybody's spare. And so she asks him why. And Dylan is so quiet and so reserved and so in his head. And it's something that really affects his relationship with Shane, with his own sister Remy, with his friend, his best friend Cruz. You know, somebody that he did really connect with was Jimmy, Shane's dad. But he is a man of few words. And so she needs that validation from him. So they're at a pivotal point where she's like, you know, they're together and talking, and she needs something from him. It can't just be sex. It can't just be that she feels like to conquer and to get back at Sienna. This is what Dylan says. Everyone needs someone who believes in them. I believe in you, and this is my way of showing you. Just like you always did for me. Even when I didn't deserve it, even when I didn't acknowledge it, I saw you, Scarlett. I always saw you. I hadn't expected that. My anger dissipated, and I deflated like a balloon. So he's trying to do things the right way. I mean, yes, he wants to sleep with her. He's totally attracted to her. but he's trying to do things the right way with her because he realizes she could be his person. I really didn't like, I mean, there's just no likable thing about Remy and Dylan's mom. That continues to be the case in this book, but Dylan feels responsible for her in a way that Remy doesn't, and I don't know if that's a mother-daughter thing in a way, and a son and mother thing in a way, but Dylan takes care of her and keeps her away from Remy because he knows how toxic she is to them, but he just can't turn his back on her. And as much as I love that about him, I also was very much, you know, kind of like Remy, where I was like, ugh, just, ew, just let her go. She doesn't care. She's only using you. But there comes a point in this book where Dylan struggles with that. Well, he struggles with it the whole time, but it comes to a head. And I did not expect what happens. And my stomach turned and I was so upset and I couldn't believe it was happening. But yet, of course she did, you know, and of course she did it. That was the par for the course with her. But what a crappy thing to do to your children, and what a crappy thing to do to your son. And Dylan struggles so much with it. And this is what he says about her. I tried to forget the first woman I had ever loved, my mother, the tragically lost, careless, manipulative bitch who could sometimes be loving and kind and funny and so full of life it was contagious. But my good memories of her were so distant, so long ago, that I sometimes wondered if they'd all been nothing but a dream. What kind of idiot would mourn the loss of someone who had always let him down, who had fed him lies and empty promises, who had rarely shown up to be a mother, the same idiot who had gotten into countless fights defending his mother's honor. Despite her failings and her disregard for anyone other than herself, I was that idiot. She manipulated the heck out of them and used them and really never should have. They would have been better off without her. Oh God, it was so horrible, horrible. It's this point where this book gets really heavy and serious. And I mean, there's the seriousness to this story because it's Dylan and he's serious. It's not like lighthearted chase, you know, it's like really good, meaty, oh my gosh, real chase. And this is where I kind of dug into this book, you know, the second half of this book, where I was like, oh my gosh, okay, there's a couple different things that can happen here. What is gonna happen? What's gonna, where's the, there's already drama, but it's like, okay, how, I know the other shoe's gonna fall. And they started falling rapidly. Oh God, Dylan, he just has it in him. You can't help it. Oh my gosh. And this was a very sweet moment. What are you thinking about? I expected him to make a sexual comment or not even bother to answer, but he rarely did or said what I expected. I was thinking that this is the best birthday I've ever had. Nobody has ever loved me the way you do. Don't let me ruin this. Don't let me ruin us. And I died. I was so choked up I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. This is what Dylan did. This is why he owned me. Body, heart, soul, and I couldn't take my eyes off him. His naked body was a masterpiece, a work of art, from the tattoos inked on his sun-bronzed skin, so dark against the white sheets, to the chiseled muscles. He was lean and lithe and so masculine. But how could I promise him that? I couldn't. Ugh. It was very sweet that he said that, but yet cloudy. And he knew that he was going to make mistakes, but he was trying with Scarlett, and Scarlett just gets like almost dumbfounded by him. And that even though she knows that he's real and raw, she does have these rosy colored glasses when it comes to him. And she's stunned by him and rocked by him. And Emery just writes that so perfectly. And I thought this scene was really perfect like that. Chapters 30 and 31 kicked my butt. Oh my God. I sat there, and I'm getting teary right now. I sat there because I was on the edge of my seat already, wondering for a few chapters, like the shoes, like I said, are dropping left and right. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What I was afraid of happening and kind of knew because of the story happened. And it was Scarlett's worst nightmare. And there it was playing out on the pages. And I crossed my fingers so hard and was like, Dylan, you got to do the right thing here. Please don't let me down. I knew he wasn't going to let me down. I knew. But those chapters killed me. This book is so sexy. Oh my gosh. There's some very hot moments. Fan yourself hot moments in this book. I never want to say goodbye to these characters. Both Shane and Remy, and now Dylan and Scarlett, are just in my heart so much. But all good things come to an end, and the epilogue in this book was perfect. I needed what Emery gave us in the epilogue, and I just loved this book so, so much. So well done. I've talked before how I read probably my favorite lines ever, that if I got a tattoo, I would actually tattoo these words on me because they translated to my life and my love and my husband and my family so well. Such easy words. It's interesting because Emery has something very similar, and when I read it, I was like, oh. But when Dylan says it, he says, I am hers, she is mine. We are everything. It's so simple, and yet it just affects me so profoundly, because isn't that what a love story is? That when you find that other person, regardless of where you find them, and it's something I love about the books that I read, is how two people find one another. Because you know what? That's real life. And love is real, and I love being able to fall in love all over again every time I open a new book. So when I read something very simple that is so perfectly applicable to my own life, and I can connect with a story so deeply like that, it's just everything to me. And isn't it funny that that's exactly what he says? I would highly recommend Sweet Chaos, and of course, recommend that you also read Wilder Love. You will love these stories. I try so hard, and I want to express everything that I love about these books, and I hope that I did it justice, because I just love to be able to share the books that I so enjoy reading with you guys. Let me know if you have read any of Emery's other books in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, the little red box down there, to my channel. I would really appreciate it. It not only helps me, but it also helps the authors of the books that I talk about get visibility on this YouTube platform. I'll be seeing you very soon, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.